What's up, guys? I'm back again for another review. This time I'm tackling two movies in a similar theme. Not only are they animated, but they're animated movies based around robots. So let's not waste any more time and get right into it. As the first movie I'm going to be talking about is Transformers 1. As in the newest Transformers movie, not Transformers 1 from 2007, just to make that clear. So if it hadn't been clear with some of my past videos, I really dig the hell out of Transformers. I've been with many incarnations of the series along with the numerous movies throughout the years. I have had my fair share of experiences, both good and bad, with the Bay films, reviewed Bumblebee a long time back, and even checked out Rise of Beasts. Which, thinking about it, am I the only one who saw that movie and gave it a fair shot? Felt like it just kinda came and went, even if it was just alright. But that was then, this is now. As we now have a brand new Transformers movie in the form of Transformers 1. Despite the confusion of the title, this movie actually did have a few things going for it. The main thing being that unlike the past movies, this is an animated film, full on. That's awesome, since we hadn't seen a big screen animated Transformers movie since the 80s one. And we all know how awesome that movie is. Yet, when the first trailer for this one came out, I know a lot of people were drawn off by it. And I'll admit, the trailers didn't quite sell me on it either. But given that this is a series I had really liked in the past, and the idea of a fully animated Transformers movie, this time set on Cybertron that's a prequel about how Optimus Prime and Megatron became rivals, I was still willing to give it a shot. At the end of the day, I've always wanted to see a Transformers movie turn out really good. So how does Transformers 1 hold up as a movie? Well, a lot of people are saying this movie is a pleasant surprise considering how good this movie is, despite the lackluster trailers. Yet, I say I'm more pleasantly surprised at how awesome this movie is, and yet it didn't even need Peter Cullen or Stan Bush to be good. All the things that plagued previous Transformers adaptations, from the unnecessary human characters, mindless action, and Michael Bay directing, is completely absent from this. That already tells you that you're going to be in for a much better Transformers experience than you have in recent memory. Instead, we get a film that's mostly fixated on the robotic world of Cybertron, in all of its animated glory. At last, a film primarily just on Cybertron.
That's what we've been waiting for!
It only took them like 17 years. It looks glorious, and the CGI animation is really great with so many impressive backgrounds and world building that makes this visually awesome when it comes to the Transformers series. Yet, what made this go a little further in terms of quality wasn't just that, but more so how surprisingly compelling this story is. Let's face it, I think Transformers fans at this point are all too familiar with the origins of the war for Cybertron, but having it be more centered around the early versions of Prime and Megatron actually gives this story a lot more layers. It plays out more as a tragedy of two friends who get separated due to each of them going into different pathways of morality, and it makes these characters feel a lot more real. Megatron comes across a bit more sympathetic in this than we're used to, and his downfall into the iconic villain we know feels natural here, even if we ultimately know where we're going. Even despite seeing them play out a bit differently, these characters by the end feel like the exact ones you've fallen in love with if you've been a fan of Transformers for a long time. It also helps that the movie plays it a lot more mature, with characters that take these situations seriously. And while there is humor in this, it's balanced pretty well to where you can actually take the story seriously with these characters, as it doesn't go too tonally out of line. It's amazing that the animated movie managed to be way more mature than any of the live action ones that have appeared throughout the years. The one thing some were skeptical of with this movie is that this time we have a movie star-studded cast voicing these recognizable characters. Which means, yes, Peter Cullen is not Optimus Prime for a change, which is a bit disappointing. Mostly because, well, come on, you can't really top a voice as awesome as Peter Cullen's Optimus Prime.
My name is Optimus Prime.
He can say anything and it would sound awesome. However, to the credit of this movie, they are aiming for a younger version of the character. And the performance by Chris Hemsworth is a pretty solid and faithful rendition to what made Cullen so good as the character. In fact, everyone does a good job here, voicing these recognizable Autobots and Decepticons, to where they fit quite well. The highlight possibly being Brian Tyree Henry, who once again showcased a lot of great emotion and range in vocal talent. Glad to hear him in more stuff. It's a film that progressively gets better as it goes on, and by the third act, it becomes the Transformers movie fans have wanted for years. It's action-packed, radical as hell, and has a compelling emotional core that does turn into one of the best of its kind. If you're a Transformers fan at all, or just want to see another really good animated movie, then this film comes highly recommended. Even if you were skeptical from some of the trailers, you should give it a shot, because they didn't do this movie justice at all. It's a film that truly lives to the phrase, more than meets the eye, so take that for what it's worth. And I'm gonna give Transformers 1 a 9 out of 10. The other movie I checked out over the past week was The Wild Robot. If there was any movie in 2024 that was one of my most anticipated of the entire year, it's easily the newest film from DreamWorks Animation. At this point, I think most are familiar with DreamWorks in some capacity, and I've been a fan of them for quite a while now. I'm so much of a fan that in celebration for this movie and DreamWorks' 30th anniversary as an animation studio, I also decided to do a watch through of their entire catalog of films. Now, take it from someone who has seen all of their films,
Can't touch this.
it's definitely apparent that DreamWorks movies can vary in quality. There are plenty of ones that are just fine, and the mix of ones that are, well,
Fart poop duty.
pretty bad if I'm being honest. But even within all of their mid films and their lowest of lows, I can't help but be a little intrigued by whatever they might come out with next. DreamWorks, if nothing else, easily has the most variety of any major animation studio, as I never quite know what to expect from them, not just in quality, but also in terms of genres as well. Yet, when they bring out one of their heavy hitters, man, they hit hard. As if given the right opportunity, DreamWorks also has some of the best and most varied selection of animated films. Whether it be a 2D animated epic like The Prince of Egypt, a hilarious romp like Shrek 2, a surprisingly fun hit like Megamind, or even giving us a consistent series of fantastic film, with their most obvious best film, the Madagascar trilogy, of course. It's clear DreamWorks can bring out some really unique stuff, and from the looks of it, their newest film was seemingly going to be another win for them with The Wild Robot. The film centers around an advanced robot who winds up lost in the wilderness, where she comes across quite a few different creatures as she learns to not only adapt with the environment, but also to help those living with her. In a film that manages to be a really touching and incredible feat of animation to add to DreamWorks' ever so interesting filmography. It definitely had some intrigue going in, as the movie was directed by Chris Sanders, who not only directed How to Train Your Dragon, but also a former Disney employee who directed Lilo and Stitch, which these movies are outstanding, so naturally I was hoping we would get another great animated film from him. Naturally we do, as The Wild Robot really does a great job getting you attached to this world and characters that's all about a mechanical being learning to have more humanity. Granted, this might be a trope that's been done quite a bit for animation at this point, but it's for almost good reason, as when it's done well, it's extraordinary. Here it's no exception, as the main character Roz does exhibit similar traits of past loyal robotic companions, but to see it mostly be a film with just her and a bunch of animals made it a lot more fascinating to watch, especially when she starts taking care of another creature. It ends up becoming sort of a take on an Ugly Duckling story of her trying to help the characters she raises to fit in despite their clear differences. Which, yeah, add that to another reason why this story was fitting for Chris Sanders to tackle. As the story unfolds, it turns into this incredible sweet movie that knows the exact right moments to be funny, with sometimes a surprisingly dark sense of humor, and also knows when to be quiet and let the scene and atmosphere settle in. Speaking of atmosphere, I really can't talk about this movie anymore without addressing the visuals as, oh boy, this movie looks beautiful. This is certainly an A-game work by the incredible artist that worked at the studio. It takes a page from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, where it has a more stylistic approach to CGI, not only mixing up its art style at points, but every single frame just looks like it's straight out of a concept art book. All the use of color combinations is breathtaking, and exemplified even further with the textures looking akin to watercolors. The characters are so expressive, as expected, and it's a feast for the eyes throughout every single frame. It's one of the many movies I can point to that emphasize why animation is so important. You can't get shit like robots showcasing a ton of humanity in a visually stunning way through generative AI. The work of these animators is unfathomable. Now pay your animators better, Mr. Katzenberg. Though while the story is charming, and the animation also helped make this movie an experience, it's worth noting that this cast is also fantastic. The film does use a celebrity cast mostly in the vein of other movies from the studio. Actors like Pedro Pascal, Bill Nighy, Mark Hamill, and even Lupita Nyong'o playing as the lead Roz all make appearances, yet unlike other films, it never felt distracting. Everyone fits their characters well, and they are giving genuine performances that really add to the emotion of the story. Lupita Nyong'o, in particular, really sells the kind-hearted nature of Roz during her vocal performance, giving a lot more life to this robot. It all leads to a movie I ultimately think is worth seeing for not only being a good animated movie, but also just a worthwhile movie to see, period. A film like this doesn't come around too often, and to see it getting the praise it has been getting makes me hope that this does well. So I encourage all of you guys to please check out this movie. In a time where animation has been suffering a lot and talented artists are constantly being overwhelmed with the threat of AI, this movie needs your support more than ever. It's a great movie for kids, it's not insulting for adults, in fact, it's everything you would like to see in a movie of this caliber. It's a film that made it totally worth it for me to give a look at all the films of DreamWorks Animation. Yes, even Boss Baby 2. As animation is an art form that is truly unlike anything else, and needs to be respected as one of the many things that should never die, due to how much joy it can bring to the world. Nothing screams joyful experience than a beautiful movie that showcases true humanity through a story of a wild robot. So take that for what it's worth. And I'm gonna give The Wild Robot excellent movie. Please go check it out. And if you've seen either Transformers 1 or The Wild Robot by the time you watch this video, what do you guys think about it? Comment below, let me know. Hit that red subscribe button for more updates, and I'll see you guys again in the near future. Later.